Welcome, this is MCG Tech with a 4th generation gaming PC I built for $105. I would like to begin this video by letting you know that unlike several of my previous builds, this computer features deals that may make it unrealistic for you depending on your location and circumstances. The main purpose of this computer was to utilize the Haswell architecture for as cheap as possible, leaving room for future upgrades. 4th generation systems make a lot of sense at the moment due to the fact DDR3 prices are plummeting on the used market. With that in mind, this is what I managed to put together by taking advantage of local and online deals. Starting with the graphics card, I chose an Asus R9 280X. For $35, this card should be able to handle 1080p gaming. The 3GB of GDDR5 may be an issue while playing games like Resident Evil 2 at higher settings, but I doubt it will limit FPS too severely. I was lucky enough to find this card at my local recycling plant, but pricing on eBay appears to be similar. The Roswell FBM X1 was a great choice for this build. I actually ended up buying 5 of these cases for $20 each off of Newegg while they were on sale. I also really like the design. The small form factor and plastic window give the case a modern aesthetic. For my CPU, I chose the Intel Pentium G3220 for $19 on eBay. Featuring 2 cores and 2 threads, this component will definitely be the bottleneck of this system. However, it is important to remember that the whole point of this computer is to create a strong foundation for future upgrades. I bought the DDR3 RAM in bulk off of eBay. $13 for 8GB seems reasonable considering how one of the sticks is a different brand, but at least they are all the same speed. The power supply I'm using is a HMW XG H600. When you take into account its 600 watt rating and the fact it is 80 plus gold certified, I think it is fair to say that this power supply is overkill, but for $10 I figured I would use it. The luckiest part of this build was definitely the motherboard, which I managed to pick up for $5 because it was going to be scrapped at the recycling plant I work at. Using your network of relationships is a great way to find deals for computer components. This board features the B85 chipset and 4 DDR3 RAM slots. Additionally, it came with an aluminum stock Intel cooler. My go-to choice for cheap storage is a Western Digital Blue 250GB hard drive. For $3 locally, it can easily store all of the games that I want to play and need to benchmark. To add to this, I have never had any issues with Western Digital drives. Altogether, these components add up to $105. The bulk of the budget went to the graphics card, so I'm eager to see how badly it gets held back by the Pentium. With the specs out of the way, let's get into the benchmarks. Starting with synthetics, I ran Cinebench R20, where the Pentium G3220 scored 427 points. Next, I ran the CPU and compute benchmarks on Geekbench. The Pentium scored 3,296 single-core and 5,358 multi-core. On the compute side of things, the system scored 116,472. For my final synthetic, I ran Passmark. The Asus R9 280X scored 6,715, placing it in the 81st percentile. The Pentium 3220 scored 3,248, placing it in the 25th percentile. Transitioning over to games, I played Apex Legends at 1080p high settings. Nearly hitting that golden 60 FPS average, Apex Legends was playable. With some changes in the settings, a more competitive gaming experience is definitely obtainable. CSGO ran poorly on this computer at high settings. My guess is that the smoke grenades and other explosions put a lot of stress on the Pentium. Mixing settings is recommended to get the best out of this computer. The Division 2 performed similarly to CSGO, but at medium settings. The difference between the average and minimum FPS was noticeable and made the gaming experience less enjoyable. Although Subnautica had a decent average FPS, the consistent stuttering made the game completely unplayable. This game tends to be CPU bound, so the poor results were expected. Resident Evil 2 did well at high settings. Even with the VRAM maxed out, this computer produced a solid 50 FPS average. With the FPS capped, stutters were not noticeable and gameplay felt fluid. To summarize, I was pretty impressed with what I managed to scrounge up at this price point. It feels like not too long ago, LGA 775 was the only option for people on an extremely tight budget. Of course, there is room for improvement. For instance, the Pentium leaves a lot to be desired, but maybe I'll revisit that in a future video. If you want to see more budget builds, stick around. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Also feel free to check out the rest of the content on this channel. Thank you for watching.